Good morning. We are so glad to be back with you today. It's been a whirlwind of a week. So
it's been an awesome week.
We did Abigail's 16th birthday trip to the Florida Keys.
Yeah, that feels like it was a very long time ago now. Funny.
Which it was my first time going to the Keys, and I absolutely just fell in love with it.
Yes.
So much fun, so tropical. So many things to see and do and experience, good food to eat. So it was a great time.
It was awesome. And we had a really special bonding time with Abigail, because you know how it is if you have multiple kids, it's really hard to find that time to have individual quality time with each one. So it was really special.
Yeah, and she had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the way back, we stopped by this fruit stand in Homestead, Florida, called Robert is Here. And they take fresh fruit and make milkshakes. You can make milkshakes.
Among other things.
Yeah.
They also have animals and
so it was very cool.
Tacos and all kinds.
Emus.
Yes. That you are terrified of.
They
now
have
we know.
Random emus there. Their eyes look just evil. Like, they just look like they want to murder you.
Now we know Thomas is, we have to add to the list emus of things you're afraid of.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of emos.
No, you are almost an emo.
I'm afraid of emus. So, and then we have a friend of ours, Caitlin, who just had a baby, emergency C-section a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And she went into the hospital yesterday with appendicitis and had to have emergency surgery. So
poor girl.
We had all 5 of their kids here last night.
It's been so fun, including a newborn, like a newborn.
Yeah.
I am loving it. It's so fun.
It's nice. It is nice to have them here and interact with the younger children again. It reminds me of a lot, but I'm also realizing I'm not in my 20s anymore. So,
yeah, we talked about adopting a baby not that long ago, and we really did kind of toss around the idea. And I think now he's definitely it's a good thing we decided against it.
I'm like,
it wouldn't be
I don't know if I'm up for that challenge now.
I don't think you could handle it.
So
maybe neither of us could handle it, but we are having a really good time.
We are, and today we're going to be doing an episode, Ask Us Anything. So we've had a bunch of questions come in, and what we've said is nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about absolutely whatever the questions come in. So these episodes are always fun because it's kind of random.
Yeah, you don't know what we're going to talk about today. Actually, I don't fully know what we're going to talk about today.
So, and we had a number of questions come in, so we'll see if we can get to them all today. Wide range of topics for marriage and parenting and everything else, but it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to talk about this when we actually get into the podcast, but I just want to personally invite you to Relationship Refresh in July. That's going to be Friday, July 12th, Saturday, July 13th here in Flagler Beach. And so it'll be a great time for you to get away wherever you are. We've already got people registered from Illinois that are coming in for the Relationship Refresh, so we're excited about that. So it'll be a great vacation spot. Maybe you want to just use it as an excuse to get away. Yeah. We'd love to have you here, so it's going to be a good time. Okay, are we ready for today's episode?
I am ready.
All right, and you remember it's episode 193?
193.
Okay.
193, baby.
And you're going to get your intro done right.
I mean, I'm sure going to try.
So it's not going to mess up the
I'm going to try
recording, editing process.
I feel like he doesn't trust me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
He broken trust, so. Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 193 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we have a pretty unique and special episode for you. This is one of our Ask Us Anything episodes. And on this episode, anything goes. You can ask us anything as personal as you want to get, or as scary of a question as you feel like it is, you can ask us anything. And we have had some great questions come in, and we're excited to answer those on the air today. Because what's cool about this episode is you, our listeners, chose the content for today's episode.
Yeah.
So we love that.
So it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of variety in the conversation that we're going to have today. A lot of these things, I think we have full episodes on. And so I'm going to rely on Lysandra to give you the specific episode for that topic.
Okay.
I wish you could see her eyes get wider. YouTube just saw it. Her eyes got huge because I didn't talk to her about it ahead of time. And I'm just like, let's see if we can put her on the spot and challenge her with this. So
fun.
All right. Before we jump into the questions for today, listen, we are just over a month away from Relationship Refresh here in beautiful Flagler Beach. If you've not had a chance to be here yet, I want to personally invite you. It's such a beautiful place to visit. I love that I get a chance to live here, and I got to bring my wife with me and my kids. So
Thanks for bringing us along, honey.
You will enjoy it. Beautiful beaches, great food. It's just a good time to get away. And then you can work on your relationship as well.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be down at Coastal Family Church has allowed us to use their facilities, which that sounds more like using the bathroom. There will be bathrooms there that you can use, but we're very thankful for their friendship and allowing us to use their building for that event.
And their building is a block and a half away from the beach.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I think it's maybe a little further, but
is it 2.5? I mean, you can see the ocean down the street. Like, it's pretty awesome.
But it's going to start 6:30 on July 12th, and we'll do one session, have some worship, play a game or two, and then we'll kick you out for the night, and then you can go spend some time together. Saturday morning, we're going to have 2 sessions and release you for lunch, do your date thing and whatever else, and spend your time together. But I think it's going to be very helpful no matter what your relationship status or issue is right now. If you're struggling, it's going to help you. If you have a great marriage, you're just going to walk away refreshed.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that is cool is we have a couple of couples who are coming who are engaged or considering marriage. So I'm really excited about that too. I think it's going to be a help and a blessing to those who are thinking about marriage or just about to take that step.
And we have a couple coming all the way from Illinois. So they're coming like 1,000 miles to be here for it.
Awesome.
So it'll be a good time. Make your plans now. You can get your tickets at familymeeting.org/shop. And you'll see it right there, Relationship Refresh.
Fantastic. So it is time for us now to answer your questions on this episode, Ask Us Anything. And we're excited to see what you want to talk about. This is our opportunity for that. Maybe today you're listening and you wish you would have sent a question in. You're like, oh, I had this question that I've been wanting to ask, or have been too afraid to ask it publicly, but this would be perfect because it's anonymous. Listen, it's never too late. You can send us your questions anytime and we'll put them in a file and we will get to them and we will answer them at a future Ask Us Anything. So keep that in mind too.
All right. So question number 1, we're diving into heavy topic right away.
Oh my.
So,
do we need to warn that the children should not be in the room?
No, this is
not that heavy.
I mean, not for this question.
Okay.
No, there will be questions like that.
Okay. So this is your warning.
At least one question like that you maybe don't want your kids to hear.
Okay.
I know our kids would not want to hear it, and they're 18, 17, 16, and 13.
Can I derail this for 1 second? I know we were just about to get into our first question, but I have to share a bad review that Family Meeting Podcast got yesterday. I have to share this.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a bad review, you guys. It's really hurtful. So we have had some children here at our house, and we've taken in some kids from a friend who had an emergency appendectomy.
Small children.
Yes, an infant, which I'm loving, and the little ones, it takes me right back to when our kids were little. I'm loving every minute of it. But the 9-year-old, he said, he's really cute. His name is Braden, and he said, I tried to listen to your podcast. I think he said, watch it on YouTube. I tried to watch your podcast. And I said, oh, okay. What did you think? He said, I couldn't finish it. It was really boring. And I said, well, that's okay. It's really made for grown-ups, so I understand why you didn't like it, and that's all right. And he walked away. It was so funny.
That is funny.
I think, to my knowledge, that is our first negative review of the family meeting, and it's because we're boring.
Yeah.
We get that a lot, though. From our children.
Not from my side. Like, my side, everybody thinks I'm fun.
Yeah, nobody thinks I'm fun.
All right, so
okay, first question.
Now, can we get serious? We're dying. This is a heavy topic.
Okay, so, I'm sorry. I just had to share that.
All
right.
What safeguards can you recommend to parents to help keep our children safe from abuse and trauma?
That's such a good question, and it's a really important one. So one thing that Thomas and I have both shared is that both he and I have experienced sexual abuse in our adolescence, and so this is certainly a topic that is close to home for us, and we have personal experience in it. And the first thing that I would say, just in general, to those of you asking this question is, if your child has experienced sexual abuse or come forward with abuse, understand that it's not your fault, and it's not that you weren't a good parent and you didn't protect them the right way. Both Thomas and myself had great parents, and they did everything that they could to keep us safe. And it's just, it happens sometimes. These predators are excellent at what they do. They know what they're doing, and sometimes they can get through all the protective walls that we put up. But what I would say to you is, this is not a simple answer. How to protect your children from sexual abuse is not a simple answer. And that is why, like Thomas said, we have done a full podcast episode. In fact, it was a 2-part episode because we dug into it so thoroughly. So you can find those episodes on Family Meeting, episodes 167 and 168. So it's part 1 and part 2. And we go through statistics and safeguards that you can put up, ways to understand or know or realize that your child may have experienced sexual abuse, some of the signs. We really dig deep into this topic, and so I highly recommend that you listen to that. What else would you say, honey?
Well, I would say I'd give a couple of things here. As Lysandra mentioned, the episodes will dive deeper into this. The number one thing that you can do is just be aware. Like, be aware, be present in your child's life. Know what they're doing, know what they're watching, know what's going on in their phone, their social media, whatever else. Know who they're hanging out with, know where they're going. Just pay attention. Right? That's the number one thing.
Yeah. And we have some simple boundaries set up in our home. For instance, our girls are not allowed to ride in a car alone with a man, or be at a home alone with a man. Like, we just, in any circumstance, it's never going to happen. They know that that's the rule. We share that with other people. We always ask the questions like, okay, who's going to be there? What's the situation? How are you getting home? Whatever it is. So that's one of the safeguards that we have.
So for instance, our youngest daughter is on our youth band at church. So they'll often have worship practice and whatever else. So my worship pastor, Rusty, who is an amazing guy, a good friend of mine, I trust him. I trust him 100%.
Yep, me too.
But he knows our rule. And so he will have his wife come with him to pick Violet up or something like that, where it's... and most people will respect your rules and respect your boundaries and be understanding. So just being aware is one of the things. And then just checking in. So we've always said for our girls is we got them phones at a time that we've decided on. And maybe you're going to have a question now, like, okay, what age did you give them phone?
Right.
Send it in for the next Ask Us Anything. We've always said, this is my phone. I'm letting you use it.
Exactly.
Because I am the one paying for it. So that means at any time I want to, I can check it. They are supposed to. We've got rules about where they keep their phones at night and all those sorts of things. So just double checking what's going on. and in their games they're playing and everything else. So,
Yeah. It's a good question, though, because there are predators coming from all different directions, and there are more directions to come from now than there ever were before.
I think the hardest thing for me, and maybe this is true of you as well, I don't know, we've never really talked about it. The hardest thing for me is not to like jump off the like freak end of protecting them.
Me too.
After what we've experienced personally, and just the number of, we know the stats and we share them in the episode, the number of people that we know that have suffered sexual abuse and trauma. So it's hard to try to guide your children to grow up and be children and have fun and friends and experiences and not super freak out on them. So
yeah, it is a challenge for sure.
Okay, let me pull up another question here. Let's see. Okay, here's one along this same line. Okay.
Okay.
What if your husband doesn't want to hear about your sexual past?
Okay.
So one of the things we talk about is like making sure that you're open and not keeping secrets from your spouse.
And when we talk about sexual history, sharing that with your spouse, we are talking about, okay, is there any sexual abuse from your past? What are the experiences that you have had sexually? And your spouse should know that for a number of reasons. One of them, though, is so that they can be sensitive and understanding to you if there are things that would trigger you if you've experienced sexual abuse. So that's an important part of making sure that you have a healthy sexual relationship. So we do believe in sharing everything. But there are certainly some people who maybe just don't want to hear it all. They are not interested in hearing.
They don't want to think about their spouse with somebody else
Right.
or whatever else.
Yeah, and I understand that perspective. Besides the sexual abuse that we've had to share with one another, we have basically zero sexual history with anyone else. I did have a boy at my job kiss me on the cheek.
Oh, I wanted to like get him so bad.
Kill him. That's like pretty much my sexual history outside of Thomas. And so we cannot fully understand what it would be like to sit and listen to somebody share, like, I kissed this guy, I had sex with this person, or what. Like, we can't fully understand that. So we want to be sensitive to how it feels for you.
Well, and you may not, and you don't really have to go into like the details, right? In fact, it's probably not good to go into the specific details of what you did with who, but
just so that they understand where you're coming from and maybe the baggage that you're bringing in, or the difficulty, or why you feel the way you feel because of the different things. So here is my suggestion to answer this question, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Thomas. The point of sharing your sexual history is so that your spouse can understand why you feel the way you feel, or why you want things the way you want them sexually. So talk to your spouse and ask them, okay, I understand you don't want to hear all of the history and everybody I've been with, but can I explain to you some of the things that happened to try to help you understand why I feel this way in the bedroom, or why I react this way in the bedroom because this happened. So maybe you can share less detail, but more of the outcome or the symptoms that have happened because of something from the past. And you can be vague about what happened, but you can be specific about the effects from it.
well, and I would just add to the conversation, because I think it is good that if your spouse really loves you, they want to know about you. They want to know. The biggest reason to talk about it is especially abuse, because you don't want to trigger your spouse, right, based upon what's happened to them in the past. So it is important for them to know. You also don't want to have like I'm a big fan of this show, King of Queens, and so you don't want to have a Doug and Carrie type thing where all of a sudden Doug finds out they're going to a wedding for somebody that Carrie had been with.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of reasons for wanting to know and sharing. But ultimately, if someone doesn't want to hear you, right, what are you going to stand there and just like spew it anyway? And, you know.
Yeah. You might just have to respect that that's how they feel.
And maybe just have a conversation later on.
Yeah. And if it's something that you need to talk about, but they don't want to hear it, then please, please, please seek professional help. Get a counselor, go to your pastor, talk to somebody who you can trust that you can share what you need to share to help you get through it.
So next question has to do with conflict resolution and healthy communication.
I feel like you should go first on the answer this time.
And we're very upfront with the don'ts of healthy communication, right? So in conflict resolution, don't shout and don't call names and no low blows and don't yell, all those sorts of things, right?
And you can read about that in depth in our book, Happily Never After, because we really talk about that quite a bit in Happily Never After.
FamilyMeeting.org/shop, and you can find it there. Plug for the book. Actually, that'd be a signed copy, by the way.
Yeah.
You can also get it from Amazon. So this is the question here. In a marriage of a lot of conflict and all of the don'ts of conflict resolution. So in other words, they don't know how to communicate in a healthy way. Other than prayer and waiting for God, how do we get to the place of healthy communication and conflict resolution? So here's the starting point is, okay, what are the basics that we have an issue with? Okay, what's the biggest issue we have? Because it says all of the don'ts. I don't exactly know what all they mean by all of the don'ts.
Maybe they're doing all of the don'ts. They're yelling, they're name calling,
Yeah, but I'm saying I don't know what all means to them.
Okay.
So we're gonna make a list of, all right, these are the unhealthy things that we're doing, these which hurt our relationship. And it seems like this is coming from a place where we know we're not communicating healthily. We want to move to a place that we can. So it's just start by making the ground rules, right? What are the ground rules for our fight and how we interact in conflict? So we're going to have rules like we don't threaten divorce. Mm-hmm. We don't call names. We don't shout at each other. So you're just starting to, you just figure out what the rules are. It's like in the boxing world. Okay, so there was this big fight that was supposed to happen in July between one of the Paul brothers. I forget if it's Jake or who it was, but he was going to fight Mike Tyson. And it started off by being, all right, it's just going to be an exhibition fight. And then they're like, no, it's going to be a professional fight. And then they literally had to lay out what are the rules going to be for this fight, like how many rounds, how many minutes, whatever. That's exactly what you need to do in your marriage as far as conflict resolution. Okay, so what are the rules of our fighting going to be? And that's really step one. We do have, we've got it in the book. We do have a podcast episode on conflict resolution. You remember what number that is? You're supposed to have these all memorized.
Sorry, honey. It's really early on, because that is one of the things that is really important to us. While I'm looking that up, how old is Mike Tyson that he's still fighting? Should he be fighting?
Like 57. It's a comeback fight for him.
57. Like, think of the people you know in your life that are 57 years old. Should they be going into a boxing ring and getting punched in the face?
To be fair, he does not look like a normal 57-year-old. Like, he is in very good shape. He is cut. He is fit. He is muscular. Like, he looks way better than at 57 than I do at 43. I will tell you that right now.
Okay. Now, am I remembering correctly that Mike Tyson bit someone's ear off?
Yeah.
Okay, and so he's the example we're using of fighting fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this is somebody who doesn't. So episode 2 of the family meeting, episode number 2, the very second one, is how to fight fair.
That was like That was over 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. So, so you can listen to that there, but we have other episodes, I'm sure, where we kind of talked about fighting more recently. But to be honest, the information is probably going to be very similar, because there's a way to fight and a way not to fight. But here's what I would say about this, to answer this question, what I would add to what Thomas said, because I totally agree with everything he just said. If you cannot seem to fight fair, like if it's just not happening, you've made the list, you're trying to stick to the rules, and every time things get heated, everybody breaks the rules and it's just a mess and it's horrible and you're doing more and more damage to your marriage. Then what I would say is you guys need to get some counseling. You need to have a mediator to help you fight.
Yeah.
And mediators are so, so helpful. So definitely seek out mediation. If you've already tried the other things where, I'm saying start where Thomas is, what he said. Identify the ways you're fighting wrong. Make a list of the rules you're going to follow. Both of you agree, okay, next time we fight about something, we are going to follow these rules. And then if neither of you can do that after a couple of tries or several tries even, it's time to get some mediation. You need help. And that's okay to need help. Don't feel bad about that. It is wisdom to seek counsel. So do that for yourself, do that for your spouse, do it for your marriage.
So here is a question on parenting. One of the things we talk about often is like teaching your children how to make decisions, right? And letting them make age-appropriate decisions. So we had a question come in about schooling. And the question has to do with they're homeschooling their kid right now.
Okay.
And their kid wants to go to the local public school because I think their friends or whatever go there. I think the child's about 7. So the question has to do with, do you let them make that choice? Like, how do they go about making that choice for the schooling?
Yeah, as far as decision making with schooling, I think that's it's a really good question. And I understand why this has come into play and why this is a difficult situation. But there are a lot of different things that you do and do not let your child decide at different ages, right? We have a daughter who is 18 and she is graduated high school. She's working. She is going to start going to our community college here in town. And she knows and understands that we do not have dental insurance. And now that she's turned 18, it will be up to her to pay for any dental needs that she has. We're not going to pay for her dental needs after 18. And so I told her, it's up to you if you brush your teeth. You don't have to floss. But when she was 1, 2, 3, there were no choices. She had to brush teeth. I actually brushed her teeth.
Yeah.
Right? And then as she got into 8, 9, 10, okay, you have to brush your teeth. You don't have a choice because I'm paying for all of your dental needs. You don't have a choice. You're going to brush your teeth, but I'm not doing it anymore. Now I'm checking up on you. Did you brush your teeth, right? And then as they get older, there's a time at which you stop even asking if they brush teeth, right? Because they can make their own decisions. So you have to think about that in terms of whatever the decision is. Are they old enough and mature enough to make this decision? And are you comfortable with living with the consequences of them making a bad decision? Because there are times when our kids are going to make the bad decision and it's like, it's going to hurt them and it's going to be a bummer, but it's going to be okay. Like they're just going to learn from it. And there are other times where it's going to affect their character. It's going to affect the rest of their life. And so they cannot make a decision because it is too important to let them make at their age. So I think that's part of it.
Well, and I think too, age appropriate decisions. The younger our children are, the more important it is for a parent to directly control the influences on their lives. Mm-hmm. So as a young child, and I consider 7, 8, 10, 12, 13 young child. I'm going to be making almost all of those decisions. So, to me, that's a parent decision. Which schooling is something that we look at every single year. Okay, what do we want to do this year? So as they get older, it'd be a different question to me if they were a senior in high school and they were saying, hey, as a senior, I want to be able to walk and graduate and whatever else. And they were mature and all those sorts of things. But for a child, to me, that's a parenting decision that you need to make. Okay, so here's a question along saying it has to do with kids, and I'll just read the question. What advice would you give to a couple who decided not to have children and invest in other children in your life? Here, and this is the big part of the question. Is it godly to not have children by choice?
What a great question. And I know exactly the verse that they're thinking of. They're thinking of be fruitful and multiply. And so if you get married and you're not fruitful and multiply, then are you, disobeying God or whatever?
Well, and there are people in religious groups and denominations that look at any kind of contraceptive or birth control as absolute sin. Mm-hmm. So it is a very interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to answer that part of the question before?
No, I'll let you answer.
Okay.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. And I'm speaking by opinion here, but I don't think there's any problem with that. I think that that God has a different path for each of us, whether it's to be single, to be married, to have a big family, to have one child, to have many children, all of that we all have a different path. And one person's path is not more important or less important than another's. I don't think it makes you more spiritual to have more children and less spiritual to have fewer children. I think that God has a plan and a path for you to take. And as long as you're following his leading, you are making an impact in this world for the kingdom in the way that you feel he is asking you and directing you to do, then you're good. Like, do that. Serve God the way that he wants you to serve him. And don't let other people tell you you're doing it wrong. If you really truly know based on the Bible and based on the Holy Spirit that you are doing the right thing, then just keep doing the right thing.
Okay, another question here. What? You're like tapping me. I don't know what you're trying to say.
I did find our episode on teaching your children how to make decisions. Episode number 7 is it deals more about how to help teach your children make decisions and what ages and everything. So you can listen to that later.
Okay, another parenting question. What to do when you have your 3-year-old sleeping with you? So your 3-year-old's in there.
I can tell you what we did. We chose not to have our children in bed with us pretty much at all. At the beginning when they were infants, which I had last night. I had an infant last night.
Yeah, did you? The infant was not in our bedroom, but neither was Lysandra.
Exactly. I told Thomas, I said, what do you think about me sleeping on the couch and having the baby in the living room so that you can have a full night's sleep? Because there's really no point in him waking up. I'm going to be the one dealing with the baby. And he said, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
That's fine.
And we both probably slept better because of it.
Still not great.
Yeah. He doesn't sleep well if I'm not there. But the way that we did it when our children were first born is we brought them into our bedroom as, they are nursing about every 2 hours. So it's just easier for mama to have the baby right there and be able to nurse quickly and everybody goes back to sleep as quickly as possible. But as soon as I could get our kids to sleep through the night, which was different for each kid, I think our earliest through the night sleeper was 2 weeks. We had a 3-week-old that slept through the night, and then it was like 4 weeks and 6 weeks. So that was how quickly our kids slept through the night. So I was very blessed and very fortunate. But as soon as I could get them to sleep through the night, they went into their own room, and everybody slept better. And that meant that Thomas and I had time to be together, our private time, every single evening. And it has been really good for our marriage. You have to decide between you and your spouse how you want to do it. But it is easiest to make the decision before they're even born that they're not going to hang out in your room every night. Now, our exceptions were when they were sick. If I had a child who was throwing up or really ill with a fever or whatever, they would either sleep in bed next to me and I would be in the middle, or they would sleep on the floor on like a little pallet next to the bed.
Yeah.
So I could care for them more easily and comfort them. But except for those moments, or sometimes we'd have a family sleepover. Yeah, birthdays, if it was their birthday, the night before their birthday. And sometimes still they want to sleep in our room the night before their birthday. And then also we would have like family sleepovers where everybody slept in mom and
we'd
dad's
literally just watch movies till everybody fell asleep.
Yeah, that was always really fun. But other than those exceptions, the kids knew they did not come into our room at night. Like when they were put to bed, they stayed in their bed. And Thomas was the one who disciplined them to make sure that they obeyed that rule. And it has been really, really good for our marriage. So I do recommend that if you can do that. But you have to make that decision on your own.
And so you've got to make sure that your time together is protected. And it's not just about sex either.
Oh, no.
But it is about intimacy, because at night, the end of the day, it's like you're busy running here and there, especially if you got a 3-year-old, like you're busy. You've got a lot going on in your life. And so having that time that is reserved for just you and your husband, you and your wife, to connect, to unwind, to share your day, your thoughts, everything that's going on, and just have that relationship building time, because this this relationship is in for the long run. Mm-hmm. The desire is it's a lifelong relationship, and your kids are going to grow up, they're going to move out, they're going to have lives of their own. And what happens sometimes is parents kind of give everything to the kids and don't reserve anything for their spouse, and then the kids grow up and you've got two strangers living together. And what happens a lot of times in those scenarios is the marriages fall apart because they just don't know each other anymore, and they don't know how to live without their kids. So having that safeguard.
I think there's 2 reasons to why people probably let their kids come into the room and sleep with them.
Well, it's easiest for one thing.
One, it's easiest. Yeah, it's easier not to train them to sleep alone because there's no fight. It's just like, okay, fine, just get in bed. Whatever.
And we know you're tired.
We know you're tired. We get that. But the other reason I think maybe is because people think this is better for my child. They're scared, so I'm here, I'm comforting them. Or they're lonely, and so I'm comforting them. So this is better for the child. But my perspective is that it is not better for the child. The best thing that you can do for your child is invest in your marriage. Because the very best thing you can do for your child is to have a happy, peaceful home where you and your spouse are happy and you can keep that family unit together. So even though you may have kind of convinced yourself that the best thing for your child is to let them in the room with you, I really do not think that is the case. I think the best thing for your child is to learn to self-soothe and sleep on their own, and then you and your spouse can have that really intimate, beautiful time every evening, and you can get a really good sleep, which is important too.
All right, here's a question. How do you handle intimacy when for extended time medical restrictions prevent sex? So they've got whatever the health issue is, the situation is, hey, we know sex is an important part of a marriage relationship, and can cause a lot of problems. So what do we do? And first of all, Lysandra and I, we totally understand that. We understand that scenario, that situation. We've been very upfront on the podcast about some of the health things that Lysandra has gone through. And we're so very thankful. Questions like this come up, and it just reminds me how thankful I am for the health that my wife has right now. But for a long time, it was months and months. What, 11 months?
I think that was the longest stint of it, was 11 months.
Where she just, because of the health issues she had, her back pain was just so severe. And so it did make sex like difficult, painful. And of course, if I'm not the one in pain, but if I know like she's in pain, like that can make the situation like weird and
Weird.
uncomfortable. So I would say there's a plenty that you can do. That's not physically having sex. Once again, we're trying to keep our rating, so I'm not going to be graphic. But there's plenty of things that you can do that are sexual and provide that release and fulfill that need that aren't actually having sex. So I would say explore some of those options.
Mm-hmm. And just in case, Thomas is being vague on purpose so that we can keep our rating and everything, and just to keep it above board and everything. But I do want to clarify and make sure that you understand when he is being vague there, he is not encouraging you to bring pornography into your relationship.
Right. No.
So he's not encouraging you in that way at all, or to bring anyone else into your relationship, as marriage was designed for a husband and a wife, and that's it. No extra people. So make sure that as you are interpreting what Thomas is saying, he is not encouraging you.
Yeah.
To do that.
Thank you for that. We don't want to misinterpret.
Yeah.
All right. And so this kind of, let's see, how do I want to segue here? This is associated with the last question.
Oh man.
Okay. And I'm going to throw this to you because I can.
Oh man.
So the question is oral sex okay?
Okay. Yeah, it's so funny because if you would have told me 20 years ago that I would be talking publicly about oral sex.
Just that you could say those two words together is a miracle.
It is a miracle.
Because even if you go back, so we've already shared that, hey, go back to episode 2 for one of the questions, right? If you go back, like even on the podcast, she just could not even say the word sex. So.
Yeah, I was like always calling it intimacy. But yes, look how far I have come. So yes, I think that there's nothing wrong with oral sex as long as both the husband and the wife are consenting to it. And we find that in Corinthians, I want to say 1 Corinthians, where it talks about, we get that principle there. It talks about abstaining from sex for a time with consent.
I'm glad you said it like principle, because all of a sudden I was like, is there scriptures I don't know about yet?
No,
I don't remember reading those two words together in the Bible.
No, I'm getting a principle. There's not a chapter in the Bible on this.
Okay.
But that's where we have to look.
It would be in Song of Solomon if it was there.
Absolutely. But yeah, so we don't think that there's anything wrong with that. That can be a great part of your sex life as long as both parties are consenting and everyone feels safe and comfortable. Then it's no problem. And there's another Bible verse that we kind of get that principle from. Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled. Did I quote that correctly?
Pretty close, yeah.
Okay. And I do not know the reference on that. I don't remember it.
But here's what I would add to that, and I always add this when we have this conversation, because I know we have people listening from a lot of different backgrounds, and it's like, how could you even think about doing something like that? And you've been taught things like it's sin, it's wrong your whole life. So here's what I always add to that is you never want to do anything, and I specifically mention guys, you never want to do anything that would make your wife feel shameful or feel dirty. And so do I think it's okay and right in a marriage relationship to do that? Yes, I think there is a lot of things that you can do as husband and wife that are perfectly fine and okay. But it's got to be by consent, first of all. And then if it makes them feel shameful or dirty, I would say don't do that. because your goal is to make your spouse feel loved, cherished, desired, appreciated. If they walk away from a sexual encounter with you feeling shame or feeling remorse or guilt, like we're not doing the right thing, we're not treating them the way that we should. And so it may be a conversation that you need to have. Maybe this is part of your conversation is, okay, why do you look at it that way? Why do you feel shame when we talk about this or whatever else? And get to the root of some of those things. And as you kind of talk things through, now we're not trying to coerce anybody in anything, right? Because a sexual relationship is not supposed to be selfish. It's not to be for your own gratification or whatever. It's to fulfill the needs of your spouse. But literally just walking somebody through something to understand can help bring them about to what you see and view. Because they may be looking at it the other way, like, how could you even think that would be okay?
Right.
So just make sure it is by consent for both of you and that no one is feeling shame in that situation. And that'll be, I think that's a great way to end the podcast.
Wow.
That question right there. It's an ask us anything.
And they did.
So
they asked us anything. I love it. We're good. I don't think we finished all of the questions, so we may be having another Ask Us Anything episode coming up in a couple of months. That gives you an opportunity to put your question in if you didn't get your question in this episode. We want to give you that opportunity to ask your question. And as you can see, anything goes. You can ask any question.
So family meeting tonight. You're like, what are you going to do about a family meeting here? Because we've covered so much stuff. So here's the thing. The family meeting can be a conversation about any of these questions that we've talked about. So you get to decide. You get to decide how fun, like leaning towards the last question, or how serious, leaning towards the first question, or anything in between. But sit down with your spouse and just talk through one of these questions, these topics, these scenarios that we have talked about today. If they're conversations you haven't yet had in your marriage and parenting, then now is the time to have that conversation. Your marriage relationship is only as good as the level of communication you're having with your spouse. And so if you've never had conversations about oral sex in your relationship, guess what you're talking about tonight? It's time. Or maybe, hey, what do we want to decide about our kids' schooling for this coming year? Or the boundaries we're going to set about cell phones and other things. So it's up to you. But it's got to be one of the questions we talked about. Otherwise, the family meeting you're having this week doesn't count. It's not official.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062. And we've been doing a Ask Us Anything. One of the things we'd love to have more of is we'd love to have your questions called in and leave us a voice message, and then we can answer those questions, put your voice on the episode. You too can become a part of this podcast.
Sounds
so
cool.
I think that'd be fun. That's 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about the family bank. And I know you're thinking, oh, it's going to be an episode on finances.
Yes, I love it.
No, it is not.
Oh.
It is not going to be about finances. We are going to talk about the family bank and how we need to make deposits into our family bank more than we make withdrawals. And just talking about family time, how much time, energy, and investment are you making in your family compared to how much you are trying to take?
All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. Gonna yawn. I don't know what it is about podcasting that makes you yawn.
I don't sit down very much.
When you've been up every hour of the entire night before.
Yeah, I'm going to be yawning a lot today, just throughout the day, and that's okay.
So think about those questions that we talked about. Is there any of those questions you've not yet talked through with your spouse? Hey, it's time to have those conversations. Or maybe some of the questions we talked about and topics we talked about today brought up a question in your mind. So if you don't want to text us, you don't want to email us, if you just put it in the comments of the video, we'll see it. We'll be able to respond there. We'll also add it to our list of things that we can talk about on the podcast. So feel free to drop your questions right there in the comments. Yep, go ahead right now. Thank you. I see you doing that. That's fantastic. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody.